If you've noticed that the prices of some essential products are rising in Australia, the explanation might be thousands of kilometers away in the United States. Trade tariffs may seem like a distant and technical matter, but their effects are directly felt in the daily lives of Australian consumers. From the cost of building materials to the price of automobiles, decisions made by foreign governments directly influence your wallet.
We agreed on wording to say publicly, which is that the US President agreed that an exemption was under consideration.
I just spoke to him, very fine man, and he has a surplus. I mean, we have a surplus with Australia, one of the few. And the reason is they buy a lot of airplanes. They are rather far away and they need lots of airplanes. And we actually have a surplus. It's one of the only countries which we do. And I told him that that's something that we will give great consideration to.
In recent years, the United States has imposed tariffs on various imports, including Australian steel and aluminum. This affects not only the trade relationship between the two countries but also creates a ripple effect across several sectors of the Australian economy. Companies face higher costs, which lead to price increases for consumers. If you're planning to build or renovate a house, buy a new car, or even purchase household appliances, trade tariffs could be influencing the price you pay for these products. This video will clearly and practically show how these tariffs impact your budget and what you can do to minimize their effects. We'll analyze what tariffs are, how they work, and, more importantly, which sectors are most affected in Australia. By the end, you'll have valuable information to make smarter decisions about your purchases and investments. Trade tariffs are taxes imposed on imported products. Governments use these tariffs to protect domestic industries, generate revenue, or even pressure other countries in trade negotiations. When a country like the United States decides to increase tariffs on certain Australian,
it's an area where Australia has a lot to offer, and I think he was reminding the President that this is an area where there's mutual benefit. With this administration, it's not what they can do for you, it's what you can do for them. That's the mindset that we've got to have.
We'll analyze what tariffs are, how they work, and, more importantly, which sectors are most affected in Australia. By the end, you'll have valuable information to make smarter decisions about your purchases and investments. Trade tariffs are taxes imposed on imported products. Governments use these tariffs to protect domestic industries, generate revenue, or even pressure other countries in trade negotiations. When a country like the United States decides to increase tariffs on certain Australian products, it creates a chain effect that can be felt across various areas of the economy. In practice, tariffs increase the cost of imported goods, making them less competitive in the international market. This can lead to a decrease in Australian exports to the US, reducing profits for local companies and consequently affecting jobs and wages. For consumers, the impact is even more direct. Higher prices on products that depend on these imported materials. For example, the recent imposition of tariffs on Australian steel and aluminum means that construction companies and car manufacturers in Australia will have to pay more for these raw materials. This increase in production costs is typically passed on to consumers in the form of higher prices, making homes, cars, and even household appliances more expensive. But these tariffs don't just affect large industries. Small and medium-sized businesses that rely on these products also have to deal with rising costs, which can result in fewer hires and higher prices for consumers. In a growing inflationary environment, these effects can be even more harmful to the budgets of Australian families. The construction sector is one of the most affected by trade tariffs, especially due to the increase in the prices of steel and aluminum. These materials are essential for infrastructure projects, residential and commercial buildings, and any increase in their costs directly impacts construction companies, engineers, and ultimately, consumers. For example, large developers who rely on imported steel need to pay more for this input, passing the costs on to buyers. This can lead to higher prices for new homes and apartments, making it even harder to access housing, especially for those already facing an expensive real estate market. Additionally, small construction companies with lower profit margins are especially vulnerable. Many of these companies may need to cut costs, which can lead to reductions in the quality of materials used or even layoffs. This creates a domino effect that harms not just the construction sector but the entire local economy. Government-funded infrastructure projects are also significantly impacted. Highways, bridges, and hospitals that use large amounts of steel and aluminum can become more expensive, putting pressure on public finances and leading to delays in the execution of these essential works for the population. With rising construction costs, many families may delay home renovations or expansion projects, also affecting sectors such as furniture and decor. This cycle of increasing costs impacts the entire Australian economy, making the cost of living even higher. Another sector heavily impacted by trade tariffs is the automotive industry. Steel and aluminum are essential components in vehicle manufacturing, and any increase in the cost of these materials creates a ripple effect that reaches directly to the end consumer. Car manufacturers in Australia who rely on imported parts and raw materials face significant challenges with the increase in tariffs. When the price of steel rises, the cost of producing vehicles also goes up, leading companies to pass on these expenses to buyers. This means that both new and used cars may become more expensive, making it harder for many Australian families to purchase them. In addition to the direct impact on vehicle prices, tariffs also affect the auto parts and maintenance sector. Auto repair shops that need imported parts see their costs increase, which can result in higher prices for repairs and vehicle maintenance. This creates a worrying cycle for consumers, who need to spend more on both purchasing and maintaining their vehicles. Transport and logistics companies also feel the effects of tariffs, as many trucks and cargo vehicles are made from materials that have seen price increases. This can lead to higher transportation costs for goods, affecting other sectors of the economy and further raising the cost of living for consumers. Now that we've analyzed the impact of tariffs on the automotive sector, let's explore how these changes affect the daily lives of Australian families and what strategies can be adopted to minimize their effects. Therefore, the impact of tariffs is an issue that goes beyond the market for imported goods. It directly affects the quality of life for Australian families, making daily life more challenging. In times of economic uncertainty, it is crucial for families to understand how these trade policies affect their finances and seek alternatives to protect their purchasing power and minimize the impact on their household budgets. If you found this content helpful, don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
Mais de sofisticação e não responder ao Trump se comportando como o próprio Trump. Já Thales Faria, também nosso colunista que está ao vivo conosco neste momento, diz que a ordem no governo é ter uma reação cirúrgica. Ministérios da